Um, a note on a book talked about in that last video. I said, I swear this is ever gory, but it's not. Cover design by Robin Jacques. Well, perhaps influenced by or a certain style of the time, or just not bad. Leo Tolstoy. Oh, a study of Tolstoy. Nice. Oh, The Years of Maturity. Oh, a biography. Volume 2, 1880 to 1940. 19 what? 1910. Vintage Russian Library. Nice. For a great many people, Mr. Simmons' biography will be the literary event of the year. It is as comprehensive a life of the man as we are likely to get. And since Tolstoy's history has a scope as wide as War and Peace, it is almost as good a book as one by the master himself. The New Yorker. The most adequate biography so far, a masterful feat, an easy and interesting narrative. This biographer is among the classic biographers in English. Well, that's good. Maybe I'll look for this whole set, Leo Tolstoy. I've seen more of these at page 1 before. I shall keep my eye open again. This is volume 2. Starts off with part 4. Contents of both volumes. Oh, maybe so there's just 2 volumes. Okay. I just need to get part 1, and then I'll read this. I am interested in Tolstoy. I'd totally read a good biography of him. Well, when do you get a book like this? The autobiography of such a famous poet. Major gear switch. I gotta read this. Keats and Yeats are on your side, but Wilde is on mine. I have kept back nothing necessary to understanding, now available in paperback only with Collier Books. The writings in this volume comprise a major poetic testament by the greatest poet to write English in our time. Oh, there, buddy. There's a lot of poets. Ranging over 58 years, from Yeats's earliest memories to his winning of the Nobel Prize, the autobiography includes reveries over childhood and youth, the trembling of the veil, dramatis personae, estrangement, the death of Synge, and the bounty of Sweden. Together, these writings constitute a fascinating record. Yeah, I'm sure I'd get something out of this. Wow, Collier Books, huh? Literature. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty haunting cover. Ugh, this book is devastating and dark. This, whoa. I either wrote an article about this or I was going to. And sometimes I'll do research for something and then it just won't end up becoming an article or something, but I've done all this research. This might have been one of those cases because it's a really dark story. Farmington, New Mexico thought they had a serial killer back in the day because all these Native American Navajo men were turning up in the desert, like murdered and mutilated, and it was really psychotic. Turns out it was just some Mormon teenagers at the local high school in Farmington, and they had a practice they called rolling, where they would get alcoholic homeless men drunk and take them out to the desert and roll them down hills and like torture them with knives and then kill them, and coals and just psycho little freaks. And anyway, my kid's grandma went to high school with them, and this book is partly about how after this happened, the very conservative little farming town of Farmington and Oil Town, its Mormon population, which is a lot of the town, banded together and really protected these psycho kids. I mean, yeah, the kids, were probably messed up by something in society, but like they were, just really evil little jerks, monsters. And yeah, this is a fascinating story, and I know a number of connections to it. Bad things happened to all of those guys, though none of them had happy lives. One later ran over a kid accidentally and just like lived a life drinking himself to death, tortured by who he was. And this book kind of posits that there was a curse placed on them that was real. So, but it's a fascinating story, dark. The American Indian movement is a part of it, and it's a big New Mexico story. I live in New Mexico. Gear shift. Wow, sometimes major gear shifts. This is about terraforming Mars. Pretty cool. Its fervent vision are captivating, and the best passages recall H.G. Wells. A fascinating futurist blueprint for life on the red planet. Yeah, I love stuff like this. I'm always like, why don't we just release like microbes genetically engineered to survive on these planets so that millions of years from now, intelligent life could evolve? We could be like the aliens in 2001, which we probably are. That's probably the unspoken twist. It's some future form of ourselves reaching back, and time is like that. Interstellar hints at something similar. You're about to go on a wondrous journey into a future firmly based on the technology we now possess, to a world where people not only survive but thrive on their own planet. I love the idea of terraforming. Not if the planet has any sign or, hope of it having its own organic life or anything. But I do have a lot of sci-fi in my heart, and I think, yeah, actually, as cheesy as it sounds, humanity's destiny may be partially among the stars, because no planet lasts forever, and there's bigger thoughts that we can think that we haven't thought yet. I think humanity is going to go through evolutions, 2001 is going to be nonfiction in the far, far future. Not exactly like that, but like some form of it. Imagine, what will technology do to human consciousness when we're all connected together as a collective? Like, that's crazy. I think we'll get in there and discover, oh, we were already somewhat connected. There's a collective unconscious as well. I think, like as E.O. Wilson said of ants, humanity is a sort of superorganism in addition to being an organism. I really think so. Intuition is something interesting to study on that subject. People that just know when somebody they love has died or something like that. I think about that all the time. It's so interesting. Some of those cases are like airtight, and we all know those people that have had those stories. But, watch All Tomorrows on YouTube. It's amazing. And think about the next billion years of humanity, what it could hold. Why not start terraforming planets? That's where All Tomorrows starts. Earth and Mars people become different because Mars has lower gravity, and they're taller and more giraffe-like. I do love stuff like this, and I had a big science and space phase, I suppose. Okay, this is a very sad book, and I knew Lois Duncan. We were like internet friends. I don't know that we ever met in person, but she was connected in New Mexico to a ton of people that I knew because she had worked at UNM back in the day. And she wrote this beautiful book of lullabies that she sang with one of her daughters that I used to play for my kids all the time while they were falling asleep. And she wrote all these great like teen suspense novels that are really famous, like I Know What You Did Last Summer. And she wrote Hotel for Dogs, which is like my daughter Willow's favorite movie. And she is just a really interesting author for younger people. But when she was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico back in the 1970s, somebody killed her daughter, shot her in traffic in a friend's car. And Lois Duncan was obsessed with finding that killer just to get peace and get some closure on it, and died without ever, getting that closure at all. However, since her death, the killer has since been found. And he was someone who was already in jail. And he was the guy who was the only person the police interviewed on site. So good job, everyone, on that case. You totally let your main suspect talk to you and slip right through your fingers. But Lois Duncan wrote 2 books about the search for her daughter. This one, Who Killed My Daughter, and another one called One to the Wolves. And, a really sad story. I was glad to hear that Caitlin's murder was solved eventually. That was a long Albuquerque cold case that a lot of people still talked about. Albuquerque has a few of those, like the West Mesa murders, though I think I know who did those. I mean, I think I know how I could find that person. Well, yeah, I talked to this homeless guy. Should I tell this story? All right, I might as well tell this story. I talked to this homeless guy named Bobby. He often offers to do portraits for people in a parking lot. And, he's a cool guy. I've talked to him a bit. He's very heavily tattooed, obviously, like in the game. And he tags as Too Swift. And but he seems like, he's trying to hustle and do legitimate stuff like portraits and things like that. That's super cool. And but anyway, since he travels in some fringe circles, he swims in a deeper part of the cultic milieu that not all of us venture out to, And he was telling me one time he found himself over at this kind of sketchy guy's house. This guy was a security guard who was a former cop, this tagger told me. This was a couple years ago, so I feel like I'm distant from all this. Though I do still see that tag around. Anyway, he said he was in this guy's house, and he started noticing there were a ton of newspaper clippings and things related to the West Mesa murders, which is the great unsolved serial killing in Albuquerque. On the West Mesa, 11 women's skeletons were found. One of the women was pregnant. And there are probably more out there, but now there's housing developments on top of it all. And GPS satellite images of tire tracks have traced it back to this murderous pimp's house. They could have just been people he abused to death over the years. But there's a couple of other suspects as well. But my friend made me think that it was this guy, because check out what happened next in the story. So he was looking at all these clippings and like, that's kind of weird. And then he started hearing muffled screaming and yelling in the wall. And then he was like, I got to get out of here. And the guy came out and saw that he had kind of heard something. And he's like, you know what, man, you look hungry. Here, get out of here. Go get yourself a good meal on me. And he shoved like $100 into the guy's hand and pushed him out of the house. And he was hungry. So he like went and ate. And then, like tried to rationalize that what he had heard wasn't something way, way worse than what, it probably was something bad. This guy was shady. Maybe he's the West Mesa person, I mean, it's still an open mystery. Crazy biz. But I'm glad that we know the guy who killed Caitlin. This was on Unsolved Mysteries and everything. He was just this misogynist who occasionally got it into his mind to kill women. And he was in prison for killing another woman at a different time. It's just a real terrible guy. This book will break your heart. No book equals this one for credibility, bleak truth, and mind-chilling horror. But, this book is interesting, though, and I think I read it a long time ago. I did. Because she goes down a lot of unprofitable paths. She talks to psychics who give her tons of misinformation. She suspects Vietnamese gangs. She climbs over the wall of a house and like confronts the vacant house as being the possible home of someone that did this to her daughter. I mean, this book is as much about someone's grief and incredulity over a too soon death as anything. It is very moving. Oh, I love stuff like this. Scripts people live. The next step after I'm okay, you okay. What do you say after you say hello? Scripts people live, huh? Transactional Analysis of Life Scripts by Claude M. Steiner. How to change the story of your life. Wow, doesn't that seem kind of neat? I feel like if you read a YA novel about like someone getting a magic book, it would start like this. The book was plain enough. On the back was a circle made of arrows. And in big red capital letters, how to change the story of your life. Huh, thought Gerald. I should read this. Next thing you know, some magic cursed monkey's paw thing's going on. So you gotta be careful with books like this. The Way, an anthology of American Indian literature. I also really love that Fastball song by the same name. That's a beautiful song. Let's see. The first comprehensive anthology. Vine Deloria likes it. We saw his name. Custer died for your sins. Informative and moving. Ugh, tragic minor water damage. Oh, come on, that looks cool. Oh, I bet this contains accounts of first contact or early contact from native sources. There's a book I love about the Pima tribe, the O'odham tribe. It's written from that perspective, and it's so great. It's so wild to read that perspective. Excellent. Songs of People. Hey, Gerald Wiesner's in here. He was my professor at UNM for a while. He taught an atomic literature class that blew my mind. And Scott Momaday. I know people who know him. Humor. Etiquette of the Marriage Bed. A speech I didn't give when I didn't address the National Press Club last time I was in Washington. My teacher is a lizard. Ritual of Death, War and Peace. Well, this book looks amazing. Oh, this is so exciting. You all know what? This shouldn't be on the nonfiction shelf. This should be on the paperback fiction shelf, part of my project. This is a book that inspired Don Quixote. And this is a beautiful copy. I can't wait to read this. Oh my gosh, look at this. I want to start like a small religious sect where we take blood oaths and worship this book. Oh, it's so pretty. You live here now, little book. This is your new home. Don't cry. Don't. You'll make new friends. Okay. I'm a desert freak, desert rat. I am the desert. I am the sand. Those who love the desert know it. You've merged with the desert. You've experienced it. You've gone insane. You've entered the desert and then failed to ever leave. You know what I'm talking about. Come on. It's the desert. This book is pretty good. It's an early work of kind of nature writing and just being aware of what makes this place different. Literature of the American Wilderness. Peregrine Smith, they publish a lot of good stuff, like Everett Lewis's letters, journals, books about him. I need to tape this one up. Look at that. That's sad. Cry with me. Cry with me. My friend Ty is really into Marcus Aurelius' meditations. And I'm like, he wrote all that on opiated wine, right? And I'm just kidding. Like, that invalidates it. But, I'm like, being influenced by a junkie. I like to, just joshing with you, Ty. Come on. Yeah. But no, this guy said wise stuff. He seemed to be pretty hip, I love that the Romans called the Germanic areas peoples the barbarians because it sounded like they were just saying the word bar over and over again. Bar, 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 bar. That is hilarious. Guess if you're going to be bigoted and racist against your neighbors, be hilarious. The cover shows a part of a bust of Marcus Aurelius in the Museum of Archaeology and History of Lausanne, Switzerland. Nature always has an end in view, and this aim includes a thing's ending as much as its beginning or its duration. She is like the ball's thrower. Is the ball itself bettered by its upward flight? Is it in any way worse as it comes down, or as it lies after it falls? What does a bubble gain by holding together or lose by collapsing? The like is true of a candle, too. What? If you said that today, people would be like, I don't know what you've been smoking, man. Ha, 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 ha. My wisdom is wasted on these peasants. The selected poetry of Donne. Well, I saw that movie Wit with Emma Thompson, directed by Mike Leigh. That was pretty good. They quote John Donne all over it, kind of like The English Patient does with Herodotus. And made me think I should read some Donne. He's one of those people that his work is made so far in the past and is so of its time, in my opinion, that it takes a little extra care and knowledge to be able to appreciate it, really. No one even knows what you're talking about, bro. No, I'm just kidding. The Relic. When my grave is broke up again, some second guess to entertain. For graves have learned that woman had to be to more than one a bed. Who knows? I'll read the introduction. Maybe they'll help me. The Southerner as American. Huh. Well, that's a fascinating topic. This is a beautiful book. Having once look at that font. Look at that blue. Dang. Oh, it's all there. It's so good. It's a pretty book. Pretty paperback. This cover is like a Cornelian shadow box. It really is. Thanks. I walked across the South in 2001, and, what a fascinating place. Some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. People that would, wake up in the early morning for a week, as long as you were in their county, bringing you breakfast and stuff. Like, what? Thanks. We're just walking through here. You're cool. Then there were the cops arresting us and stopping us over and over again. You can't walk around here. Well, okay, you can't walk? What? What kind of place you running here, man? Virginia, wow, what a state. Amazing. Actually, I love North Carolina, too. I think North Carolina ended up being my favorite state from the whole hike. Why the North won the Civil War. But that title stings to some people. Why the South lost. Oh, interesting. You just want to be an educated person. You want to be well-rounded. You want to know things. You know your own history. We got to know ourselves, and part of that is just knowing everything that's ever happened on the whole planet. Ha ha ha. No, but seriously, you got to just be hungry for it and want to learn all there is to learn, because it is your story, and you want to see it. And if you're a writer, you want to preserve it. You want to filter it and pass the best of it on, and be a part of those links of chains. This was a very enjoyable biography of Karl Marx, very sympathetic, very interesting. I enjoyed reading this a lot, and it made me want to read more Karl Marx. Sometimes it helps me when I'm kind of working my way up to reading big works by people to read about them. Like, I should read Das Kapital sometime. I want to read both volumes of that. Or aren't there 3? I don't know. But, yeah, it helps to read about people. Late in life, he had this horrible affliction. He was covered in painful boils. Like, ugh, dude, what? He had made himself a conduit for ideas that were too powerful, I think. Fried his physical self. I mean, that's how it struck me. Fascism. Mike has a book about fascism. He's a fascist. No, it's part of. It's in a series. You want to know about all things. I did have one book that I got rid of because I was like, it's just not worth the questions that it always generates. It was called The Gentle Swastika, and it was a history of pre-World War II swastikas, written by someone called Man Woman, who was told to worship the swastika in a trance. I'm like, this is the weirdest book I own. But it would just somehow, out of 10,000 books in that house, people would zoom in on that book on the shelf. As soon as they walk in, they're like, what's this? I'm like, it's a book I'm giving to the thrift store soon because I'm tired of these conversations. Even though, yeah, the swastika was a pre-World War II symbol and it was ruined by some morons. And if you go to like the Chemo Theater in Albuquerque, you can still see pre-World War II swastikas decorating the stage. It was the whirling logs. It symbolized the wind in 4 directions and blah, blah, blah. Fascism. Too ugly. Don't they? I mean, I think like hate just like makes people look so grotesque to me. I'm just like knowing what you have inside you. Like a ghoul. Weird ghouls. Okay, look at this. Los Hermanos Penitentes, America's weirdest religious cult, by Lorraine Horkofolic. Isolated in the mountains of New Mexico, the strange and ancient religious brotherhood finds ecstasy through pain. So there is a murder that happened in New Mexico in 1936 that I might be the foremost scholar of. I might have done more research into it than anybody else since Marta Weigel. And it's the murder of the journalist Carl Taylor. He was in New Mexico writing about the Penitentes. And then he was killed, age 36, I believe. No, when was it? In the year 1936. I don't know how old he was. He might have been in his late 20s. No, I think he was in his 30s. But some scholar. It's been a while. But years ago, I wrote this giant, 15,000 word essay all about that. And it's 2 podcast episodes of my podcast, City on the Edge, which you can find on Spotify or iTunes. Weirdly, the first ones we did, so you got to go back a ways, but they're still worthwhile, I think. They have a lot of original research. I spent so much time in newspaper archives and on the ground and talking to people that were connected to it, etc. That still will become part of a chapter in a book someday. Part of book 2, actually. I have this idea. There were 3 really significant murders spanning a century that happened in the Sandias, and I'm going to look at all 3 of them with some events from my life, intertwining it among them. Anyway, this is like a pulp book. I have this because Carl Taylor is mentioned in this, and I tracked down every, I would do Google book searches back when that was a good, useful tool. And if any book that mentioned Carl Taylor existed, I would find it, and I would order myself a copy by eBay or whatever. I don't use Amazon anymore. And I haven't for a long, long time. I just don't want to give money to a guy who looks like 6/7 of his soul are in objects hidden around the world. This is Chief Joseph's, a book about Chief Joseph. Oh, I bet this is great. He's a wise, wise guy. Recommended as the best book about American Indian history published in the last few years. I can't believe Columbus stuck that name on the people here. This isn't India, dude. Nope, it's India. I found some things in these books. Sorry, I gotta stop putting my hand in the shot like that. This looks like a very old receipt. See a date on there anywhere? July 71. Cool. Anchorage Bookshop, Anchorage, Alaska. I probably did go there. Anchor Bookshop, yeah. Sounds like me. Real life tragedy almost derails author's career. This was back when she was alive. When Hotel for Dogs came out. She was featured in the journal. Okay, I have room for one more on the shelf since I took that Lazarillo de Torme out. I put it on the fiction case. Joan Didion and the White Album. I have not read this, but I believe it contains a chapter about the Manson murders in L.A. and how nobody was all that surprised by them. Her book, Slouching Toward Bethlehem, pretty good. Really stayed with me. Quotes Yeats well. Very interesting book. Capturing a time, a zeitgeist. All right. Well, I've now looked at 3 of the 4 shelves of this case. One more to go. Still, no one knows why this is happening. It's just like an event happening. I can't stop. I'm riding around in my own being as I record these videos. Why, I say, why? Why would anyone want to hear about your bookcases and books and stuff? I don't know. Some people like boring stuff. Just give up, Mike. It's dumb what you're doing. No, I like it. It's good. It's educational kind of. I know a couple of things. I can share that with people. I can't. No, Mike. Give up. You're worthless. Oh, come on. I like books are cool and stuff. Why can't I talk about them? You're an embarrassment. What? I think it's good to like have little dialogues with yourself sometime, Really, all right, peace out, my friends. Hey, would it be weird if I put like got a PO box and put it on the channel, and then like people could send books to the channel? Like, I don't want to beg people for money ever, but that would be pretty cool if I got like books once in a while. And then it could be like super interactive. I bet that would, I don't know, I could just throw it on there. But, because like, if I was following a channel, I might, I have sent stuff to people I met on the internet. I had all this Fleetwood Mac merch, and there was a writer that was really into Fleetwood Mac, and I was like, I got all this stuff from somebody whose husband used to be Stevie Nicks' speech therapist. It's a long story. And sent it off and kind of made a new lit friend. It's cool. I don't know. What am I saying? Whatever. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I guess I'm posting a little more than usual because it's the weekend and I had an idle moment. Maybe I should find something more productive to do. All right. See you all later.